How aesthetic is your physique? In this video, we're going to be ranking physiques on the aesthetic scale from 1 to 10, so you can determine where you sit on the 1 to 10 physique aesthetics scale. So for context, guys submit their physiques as part of our physique analysis service. So they upload a bunch of pictures, some training experience, and then we give them their weak points, strong points, an aesthetic rating, and advice based off their training experience. So first of all, we have Brandon, and this guy is in his 40s and he's in phenomenal shape. So we said, first of all, insane progress for dropping 50 pounds. He started like this and he's got down to this nice lean body fat, man. That is crazy. That's insane. Honestly, fucking props to this guy. This is what I like to see. It's the no excuses. Guys who let themselves go later in life. It's just to cope, it's an excuse. I mean, look at this guy. He's a pure example of what can be achieved even at a later age. We said overall, you have a pretty balanced physique with minimal flaws. There are only a few weak points that need work. The obvious one being the chest insertions, which unfortunately there isn't too much you can do about the actual insertion of that chest. As you can see here, it does sort of have like an angle to it. It's not as squared off. Some of that can be caused by being a little bit more overweight to begin with, as you will suffer from a little bit of loose skin, which will create that illusion. So his lacking areas was obviously his chest, upper and lower development. His back is also slightly underdeveloped compared to the rest of his physique. However, I will say he isn't holding like any fat in his back. His back looks lean, man. It's mainly just the fullness of the back. The width is okay, but I'd like to see a bit more mass overall in the back. And the visible strengths were his arms, shoulders. Yeah, so we gave this guy a 6.7, which is actually very good on our scale. We have a pretty strict scale. Like, to get an 8 is very hard. So a 6.7 is great. And especially at this age, you know, most guys in their 20s look nothing like this. Nothing like this. There is no excuse. And his shoulder to waist ratio, although it was hard to judge from these photos, we actually measured diameter on the screen. So this is not the same as circumference. Circumference will be about 0.1 lower, but we said it was roughly 1.6. His left to right symmetry was 7.5 out of 10. No major asymmetries apart from that chest. The upper lower development, we gave 7 out of 10 because the legs appear to be pretty proportionate, but the photos limit a full evaluation. The muscle group breakdown, we give a star system relative to the physique. So whether you have a great or not a great physique doesn't really affect the stars. It's proportionate to that physique. So it's a pretty even spread here, but the chest obviously was the lowest. And the body fat estimate we gave was 13 to 14%. The fat distribution was pretty even. He's holding a little bit more in the chest and the lower stomach, which is pretty common for guys who have lost a lot of weight. And his recommended phase based off his training experience and his diet protocol that he already had, I just said to maintain his current approach. It's clearly working. If you've lost 50 pounds, I'm not going to tell you to switch it up. Clavicle width is average to slightly narrow, because you can see he does have quite developed shoulders and it still appears to be kind of narrow. The waist width is average to slightly broad, but this is very typical for guys who are a little bit older. Your waist tends to thicken a little bit. But we can see from this photo here, like I said with the back, it's lacking a little bit of size overall, including the lats. So if he were to grow his lats, his waist would look significantly smaller and more aesthetic. So that could easily bump him up to a 7. And then for the training and the diet, we basically just said, continue what you're doing because it's working amazing. Once again, props to this guy, man, like insane transformation. It's never too late to make a transformation, guys. Like if you're in your late 30s or something and you've really let yourself go, use this as motivation that, bro, there's no reason you can't just make a complete turnaround transformation. I mean, the information is out there. That's realistically all you need, is just an actual structured plan and just a game plan specifically catered towards you. And that's why, guys, in the Skool now, we've actually included a free physique analysis as part of the Spartan Protocol 2.0. So you'll also get a structured, customized game plan specifically catered towards you. It's also got over 100 exclusive videos from us in there. It's going to help you make transformations like this. That'll be the first link in the description, guys. Next, we have Robert, and it's probably the first thing you notice. The waist is the biggest thing holding him back right now. So the main priority should be to bring up the shoulders and the arms. So right here, we have an example of a guy that's in pretty good shape. Like, he's actually quite lean. He does have some muscle, but the biggest thing holding this physique back is bringing up these shoulders and these arms to make this wider waist appear smaller, because right away we can see that's just hindering the V-taper massively. And this is also a guy that's made a weight loss transformation, so really good job on that, bro. But yeah, as you can see, like, it doesn't look bad at all from the side because that wider waist and the wider hips aren't visible. So this is why it's so important to grow those lateral delts and build up the thickness in the arms to make the front picture appear more aesthetic. So for his lacking areas, it's obviously going to be his arms and shoulders, and his strengths is his chest and his legs. Those are probably the standout features of his physique. Once again, he could bump his score up massively if he just got his lats bigger, his shoulders and his arms. So we gave this guy an aesthetic rating of 5.9, which is actually pretty generous, especially according to our scale. Yeah, I mean, if this waist were to simply just be smaller and the arms bigger, there's no reason this couldn't be 7.5, because the actual insertions are really good. Like, you've got a nice squared off chest. He is pretty lean as well. It's simply just the waist and the shoulder difference. And that's why the shoulder to waist ratio was 1.49, which is pretty good because he's not overweight. So it's not going to be anything terrible. In terms of symmetry, left, right, upper, lower, it's all pretty even. Muscle group assessment was actually pretty even because the actual muscles aren't horrible. It's simply just like the bone structure in terms of the waist. We estimated his body fat percentage to be about 14 to 16%. His fat distribution is pretty even. He's holding most of it in his lower back. You can see here. That's a pretty common thing with a lot of people. That's where I hold my fat as well. And we just said to continue to cut down to 10 to 12%, as it would obviously make the waist look a little bit smaller and things would just start to pop out a lot more. But the brutal thing is, guys, is if you actually zoom into his waist, this is entirely a bone issue, right? It wouldn't really matter how lean he got. His waist is still going to look wide. And this is even the case with me. I can actually relate to this. I've got a pretty wide waist in proportion, but I've given off the illusion of a V-taper now because I've built all the other muscles that serve me in the best way. So it's not completely over. Brother. With bone structure, the clavicles are actually pretty average. They're not narrow or anything, but the waist is obviously wide. The limbs are slightly longer. And in terms of the bone frame type, I put in torso dominant. Some guys call this like a spider physique. And that simply just means that your torso is a lot bigger than like your limbs, like your legs and your arms, which I suffer from. And in terms of the training, it's obviously just going to be keeping the same training plan because it is working and he did lose a lot of weight and build some muscle. However, I would emphasize the shoulders and the arms. I would have a dedicated shoulder and arms day on top of what he's already doing and really focus on the intensity. And then he was planning on having an 8-week cutting phase, which I said, yep, go ahead, do that, get to about 10-12%, and then you can transition into a lean bulk after that. All right, next we have this physique right here. This is a very aesthetic physique with a lot of appeal. So in the training experience, this guy actually said, like, I love your no bullshit style of content, so don't go easy on me, like, be brutal. And I said, yeah, like, I know you said not to go easy on you, but for 6 months of consistent training, which is what he said he had, this is very good, bro. I can't even brutalize this guy. Like, it's a solid physique. There's nothing more to be said, man. He did say his arms were lacking, and I said, they're not lacking as much as you probably think. They're not horrible. They probably are lagging behind a little bit compared to maybe his chest. Yeah, and his visible strength right away, you can see is his chest. He's got a very nice full chest and his back. So we gave this guy an aesthetic rating of 7.2, which is very good on our aesthetic rating scale. Once again, these are all pretty high ratings, and that's because guys really only consent to be on videos if they've got a good physique. Like, let's be honest, there's not a lot of guys that would really want to be in a video if they know they look bad. So his shoulder to waist, which was a little bit harder to measure from the photos, and it is warped a little bit by the phone, but it was about 1.83. So if I were to estimate a circumference, it would be something like 1.7, maybe 1.67. Left right symmetry and upper lower was both 9, because this guy is just, everything's very symmetrical and well proportioned. Like, even look at the back here, there's literally no noticeable asymmetry at all. His legs are also pretty good with the development as well, and that's why the muscle group assessment was so evenly spread, man. The only thing that I gave 2 stars was for the calves. As you can see, they're not horrible, but they are lagging behind compared to the quads. For his body fat, we estimated him to be around 15 to 16%. His fat distribution is very even, possibly holding a little bit more in that lower stomach region. The recommended phase would be to just cut down to about 10%. He would look super aesthetic. I think that would serve him very well, especially with his insertions and his overall structure. Then he can sort of bulk from there. And then training was just lock in the consistency and keep doing what's working, because it obviously is working. This guy's got some great mass. And we talk a lot about physique appeal and taking good photos as well. He's done a pretty good job in this. Like, I see a lot of you guys who submit your physiques, you take atrocious photos. I'm just going to keep it a buck. This is a pretty good photo, right? Number one thing is the iPhone. Fuck your Androids, all right? So the iPhone, he's posing pretty good, and his face is nice and dialed in as well. You can see at this body fat percentage, he's got the jawline, he's shaped up his beard, he looks very tidy, and just, this is a good example of a pretty high appeal photo. If he were to submit this to like Tinder or something, he'd get some pretty good results. I know it sounds a bit zesty, but if we're optimizing for women here. And that was it. So you can use those ratings to sort of judge where you sit on the 1 to 10 scale. I know these are all pretty close together in terms of the ratings, and that's once again because the best physiques we get are the physiques that get consented to be on a video. So most of the ratings we do usually sit within like 4.5 to like 5.5 roughly, right? So don't think that these are the average physiques that we get. These are quite standout physiques, and you'd be surprised how piss poor a lot of guys' physiques are, but it's all good because we're here to help you improve your physique. And if you want to do exactly that, and you also want to get that free physique analysis, go to that first link in the description. We just released the Spartan Protocol 2.0, which is the most insane thing in the fitness industry right now. I can guarantee you there's not another fitness creator with a product this good for this price. It's actually insane. It's our life's work. Head over there. I appreciate you watching the video, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.